You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's The Americans After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's The Americans After Show.
Woo! Where Martin? Theme song? No? Okay. Oh, there it is. There it is. Thank you. Yeah, listen to it. Sounds very Russian KGB spy. Bing is for doing. And we are here doing another episode of The Americans for You, episode 3, season 1. And this episode is titled Gregory. I am your host, Lauren Leonelli.
I'm Joe Braswell. Hello, Lauren.
And I'm Jenifer Golden. Hi, Lauren and Joe. Hey.
Hi, everyone. And Martin, thank you so much for
no problem.
giving us our beautiful theme song. It is, we're kind of talking about how the beginning reminds us a little, this show is compared to Homeland all the time. It reminds us a little bit.
And forever will be.
Yeah. And it's, I think it's definitely different in its own ways, but it's good like Homeland. It makes you like, the subject matter is really, there was a lot of like crazy, risky stuff happening this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar, both well written, both about spies, both about domestic drama.
Yeah.
It's, both about sort of the blurring the lines between one side and the other and who's doing what.
And within that, very much like Homeland, like, are they or aren't they? Like, especially with Carrie Russell's character Elizabeth, it's like, does she love? We kind of know now this episode what maybe she feels about Philip, but before it was sort of, is she just in this for the job? Is she doing this for? Does she kind of love him? What's the kids? I mean, there's gray areas that make you. They straddle the fence.
Yeah. Something else that happens in both shows, since we do compare them, might as well be combining our after shows here, but. Is you kind of understand why, like, the enemy is likable almost, where people can kind of get sucked into that and turn. Not that we're going to turn, obviously. Well, we would not do that for sure. But there are people that do, because they're just, enveloped in that lifestyle where you just don't know right from wrong anymore.
You don't know right from wrong, and Elizabeth is one of those characters that I feel like through up until now, we learn a lot about these people fast, because these are really, like we said, high risk situations. Yep. And Elizabeth is one of those characters who seemed so laser beam focused on, like, this is my job. Mm-hmm. Even like, I'm thinking, again, she's never said this, but she got pregnant for cover. Like, this is all for cover, like everything. And now we start to see her relationship with Gregory.
Yeah,
and Gregory. This kind of throws us for a loop, right?
Especially because we've seen her with other people in other circumstances that she did for finding out information or whatever it was to use
and when you said she did, meaning had the sex with?
Oh, totally did the sex.
Right.
Did the sex.
This is what I love about the show. I mean, just going back to what you were talking about, Jen, the complicated, I love these shows, these cable shows, these non-cable shows have been challenging us with these protagonists who are very not conventional heroes. And like you have, serial killers on Dexter. You have, Tony Soprano's a mob boss. You have, you're rooting for a motorcycle gang on Sons of Anarchy. Here, you have a Russian KGB spy who's going to take down America as the people that we're rooting for. And it's great writing, and it's something that's you make super spies very sympathetic, and I loved it.
Totally. And I think that this, and again, we're starting to straddle the fence on this, even because at the end of this episode, we're rooting for them. We're watching it through their eyes, unlike our comparison to Homeland, where we're seeing it through Carrie's eyes, and we're really fighting for America. And the subject is a lot more sacred cow. Like, it's very much more relevant for, this is in the 80s, and this, at the time, this was the big deal. Yeah. And we're rooting for these spies, and I'm really rooting for Philip, and I feel like he really loves her, and I want him to. But
because they're a family.
Because
we are all people that love families.
At the end of this episode,
was always that reminder.
We got to see a little bit of the nasty side, and you go, oh man.
Right,
and then and we see the FBI there, and we see the dead body, and we're like, man, that sucks.
Right, because until then, we've sort of just seen like people have been killed or whatever. It was like the first guy in the first episode was killed because he had actually hurt Carrie Russell's character back in the day, and so Philip was protecting her.
So you want him to be, yeah.
We want that to happen, exactly. And it almost seemed a little bit like defense just because of what was going on. But you sort of forget that they're like violent spies. They're not just looking at things.
At any given moment, I feel like Carrie Russell could like take her 2 fingers and go like, and
No,
just
she's
kill
no
somebody.
joke. Yeah, she's absolutely no joke.
We thought she might do that in that one scene where she was left alone with the woman and the baby.
Totally.
I was like,
And
She has
her
those eyes. It's the eyes. She's
She's
that
gonna
look.
do that like 3-point heart maneuver from Kill Bill, and she's and then it's like, bleh, and they're just gonna die. These people are crazy. But you also made a point. They're again, we're dealing a lot within all of these subjects. This is the 80s, and the technology is like so not like it obviously is today.
No.
They have to place
Spies
ads
had to work a lot harder in the 80s.
a lot harder,
to get
right?
How
stuff
did they
done.
accomplish anything?
These
There's a
people
lot.
are way like crazier than like our Homeland dudes or whatever.
I want to know how I actually was born in the 80s. Like, were there machines that had me come out? Like, was there proper medicine?
They lit a
then?
candle.
Yes, they did.
And they boiled water.
And then I popped into
you were born.
I was a bun in
and
an
thank
oven.
God you lived.
I was around the 80s, and it's worse than I remember, actually, definitely, because I forgot. There's no,
Texting?
no texting, no cell phones, no answer machines, no nothing. So how do you become a spy? All these high level surveillance, no computers, no GPS, no.
The guns
nothing.
looked quite similar,
Think about
but that's
how.
about it.
Yeah, think about how. A lot of their leads and things like that are, oh, well, I had this feeling, or the way he was saying that, or, oh, she's religious, so she's not a good. There's
Or
a lot
code
of these
words.
Right.
But think about how heightened their senses have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, even the scene where Philip was like, "Could you not stand in my blind spot?" Like every second of this guy's life, he is like.
Right. I didn't know you had a blind spot in real life. I thought it was just
in a car. Well, you're not a Russian spy, so
Obviously.
Exactly.
Well, I'm learning now how to be.
now you're never gonna be. You're gonna be like standing in line at Pink's and being like, "Can you get out of my blind spot, please?"
And even when they went to talk to the wife and the kid, they essentially had to interrogate her, but it was they had to know if she was telling the truth or not. You can tell that Carrie Russell was looking at her like she's telling the truth. She's highly trained enough to heightened
Body
senses
language.
enough
That's what I'm
to know
saying.
with eyes and body language that I believe her.
A lot of
now
this,
what do we do?
A lot of this stuff is just having a really, really on point instinct.
Yeah.
And that's also the reason why I think the show is good, because your instinct's not always right.
Yeah.
At any moment, it could be something else too. But you have to go. And I'm the type of person who, I think something, and then I'm like, but it could be this, but it could be, and then like
You overthink
80
it,
different
right.
things later. These people are like, it's this, go, and then you have to react and be ready. And they're most of the time they're right, but sometimes they're not. So Gregory and Elizabeth, we find out that there's a little something happening. Like
There's a
when
lot of something happening.
well,
When he put
of
on the
course.
music, I was like, oh.
And what was that? What was that? What was that?
Machine?
The
that
machine.
contraption?
What was that? Doohickey.
That was a reel-to-reel. I'm the resident old guy here. That was a reel-to-reel
That's why we have you.
tape player.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that was a high
wasn't even a
fidelity reel-to-reel.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was waiting for some
That's how you
good.
put it down back in the 80s.
good-
Little like boop.
Yeah,
I thought
right.
it was going to be a
When I was a
record
kid,
player
but-
of some kind, but nope. It was like,
Yeah.
It was like one of those real ones, but we could tell from the beginning that something was going down between these two, and we weren't sure if this guy was another guy that she had the sex with to get information for, or if there was something else happening. And we could instantly see Carrie Russell. Hey, girl, call me. Tell me what you're doing, because every single guy in your life is in love with you.
Yeah.
It's because she has no emotions.
Including me.
She's,
Call me too.
dude. She is so gorgeous. I love
Yeah.
her.
I mean, even in the 80s gear, the high-waisted jeans.
Oh, she looks
and-
great.
hot.
She looks fab. Fabu. And at first I didn't think, while we're on this off subject a little,
Yep.
at first I didn't really think Philip was cute, and now I kind of like him.
He's a super spy.
You know what?
That's always good.
I think it's cool. Like, he's pretty badass in that respect, but I watched him religiously on Brothers and Sisters. And there's been some articles and stuff out about like him playing like, a homosexual man in a relationship with like possible children to this badass
Big
spy.
jump.
Right.
Yeah, it's a huge jump.
Is it hard for you as an audience member
Yes.
to take him, to see him this way?
It's getting easier, I would say, each episode, because I'm distancing him from brothers and sisters, the more badassness he has going on here. But it is still hard. Every time the episode starts, I'm a little bit like, what am I watching again?
Yeah.
I buy him 100%. I watched a little bit of Brothers. I wasn't a religious Brothers and Sisters watcher, but I think he's a fantastic actor.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Stupid Welsh. The Welsh, the
foreigners.
English.
They always, I mean,
Every time.
Can they stop invading?
But he's fantastic.
They're taking our jobs.
They are totally taking our jobs, and we need to. So Gregory and Elizabeth back in
Gregory.
this, but we want to talk about. Let's talk while we're talking about good acting. We need to talk about the scene with Philip and Elizabeth in that alleyway.
Oh yeah.
Where he called her out. We'll get to that in a second
Yeah.
because it relates to Gregory and Elizabeth, and we find out that they. Basically, I mean, I guess, could you call it an affair? I guess it was an affair.
Well, I don't know if no, that's a relationship because it's not unfair because technically she's married, but it was her cover.
Oh, exactly.
Right.
But,
So you know.
and I think what Philip is using to get back at her for it, because I think it literally hurts his heart that happened.
Right.
But he's basically like, you lied to me. You didn't do your job. But I think really what he wants to say is, why don't you just love me? Why couldn't you
Right.
just do that
Right.
with me?
That's a really interesting thing about this. You're seeing they're here to do a job. They're put together, but they're not in love. They're playing this role, but
Well,
they're sort
she
of
doesn't love
falling.
him.
Doesn't love him at all. But they're falling in love, and maybe she's falling in love with him. Clearly, he loved her, or at some point had fallen in love before she fell in love with him. But it's just to watch that whole thing come
So
together.
layered.
Because in the meantime, they got jobs to do. They're doing other people. They're doing some.
They have two jobs.
Yes.
They have a cover job and a real.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
How are they in this, like, they're full on have 2 kids.
Yeah.
That in its own sense is a job. They also are these fake travel agents, and they fully do that job. And then
Yep.
they, like, meet in the back and talk about and then they go out at night. We were questioning this too.
Right.
They just leave their kids in the middle of the night and go, like, spy.
Philly's not that far from DC.
But also, I think that in
And the
those
daughter's
times,
old enough, but I'm
Right.
just saying.
Yeah, no.
in those times, though, I think it was different. Parents left their kids alone. They also smoked indoors and
while pregnant.
right, and drank while pregnant. So times were different then. We have to remember that.
No, but still, I mean, how do these
No
people?
one said being a spy in the 80s was easy.
Nobody said it was
No.
easy. These people don't even sleep. They're like, well, they're just getting home. They're like, the kids are going to be up in an hour. It's like,
mean-
then they got to go be travel agents. I'd murder
And
somebody.
they're like sleeping with people on the side. Like they've got like relationships. They've got last week, Philip was with the blonde chick.
I
and then
know,
the week
right?
before,
Wait,
Carrie's with the other
speaking
dude.
of which, can we just talk about their disguises?
I know.
I know that's just so
Apparently,
random.
apparently in the 80s, disguises weren't. The
Philip's
technology
like,
disguise wasn't up to snuff.
No.
A beanie and glasses, and she's got a wig on that's like one shade off of her natural
Right.
hair color.
But her face is
The disguise
completely seen.
technology.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I just don't know how that's called as a disguise.
I don't either, but I think maybe it just depends on who the person is and how greatly they need to disguise themselves.
Right.
And if you think about it in the real world, like you meet somebody one time, like sometimes you don't even remember meeting that person.
Well, it's
So-
true. I think also their disguise going to see Robert's wife was more to do with if other people saw them go see Robert's wife
Right.
versus her seeing them.
Exactly, but then you have to keep in mind that if other people are seeing them, they're like highly trained professionals, like FBI people, who are going to notice a difference in hair color. Like it's not going
Right.
to throw them off.
Right. Facial recognition with your own 2 eyes. I think
know,
you can
right?
Figure it out.
So yeah, so well, whatever. So anyway, so that's interesting. But Gregory, as we keep, there's
Yeah.
so much to talk about. But Gregory, I like that he is in. He's a great actor. Love this guy.
Derek Luke.
And I like that they threw him in here because now we're getting to see. We got to see it a little bit with the kids and Elizabeth sort of showing some emotion and a softer side. Now we're getting to see that, okay, this girl does really have feelings. She's not just like robot KGB spy.
Right.
And we find out a lot more about what went on between them when
Yep.
Gregory basically kind of confronts Philip in the kitchen when he's decoding that. We were like, what the heck is he making?
Yeah.
That acid contraption, and then all of a sudden the code came out. To see, they didn't have internet back then. They had to like go.
Make
Old
some
school.
acid. Yeah, the show works on like the show works on 2 different levels. It works as a relationship drama,
Yes.
obviously. It's all these interpersonal relationships, but it also works as an action spy thriller.
Totally.
So all the action spy thriller crap I love, obviously, 'cause I'm a big. But all the relationship crap and the drama stuff is really really well done too.
Yeah.
So I was just as interested to find out, like when Derek Luke popped, I'm like, well, he's black. He's a brother. Is he like a Russian like spy? How? Where does he?
I was wondering that
what-
too. I'm like, he's
affiliation?
clearly not Russian.
But they explained it because they, historically talked about how,
Vietnam.
I'm from Vietnam, and he's disenfranchised. Obviously, he's African American, late 70s, early 70s. Not the best place to be for us. Disenfranchised, anti-American. She recruited him.
Saw that
and
he was
she's
passionate.
very passionate about the
They
cause.
were at a Martin Luther King rally. Isn't that where they were at?
I think, or she said a Vietnam.
No, I think it's an anti-war rally, which is more of an anti-war, anti-American.
And
They
she
definitely
was-
mentioned him though. I heard
And
his
she,
name
oh yeah,
mentioned.
yeah, and she
Right.
was definitely there on purpose to recruit people for
Right,
sure.
right.
Oh,
She
yeah.
knows those people are like
Anti-establishment people.
down,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
down with the man.
So I thought that was really interesting to find out how he became, how a guy like that, who is, a little younger than my age at the time,
Yeah.
could, I would never think I could be turned, but just where he'd come from to go from where he was to being a spy, A, and then B, him being in a relationship with her at this time, and knowing that she's a full-blown Russian spy, this is her cover, and then that's a crazy interesting life.
Crazy interesting, and I love how in the scene with Philip, when he starts to explain how this all came about,
Yeah.
that he, at the same time, he's talking about this love and relationship that they had together. Philip is still working and doing this spy stuff, so
Right.
that's what you're talking about. It's the two aspects of the show working at the same time, and he
Yeah.
at the end uncovers this clue. So you're reminded the whole time what's really going on. But
Right.
I think also looking back on that whole thing about how Elizabeth met Gregory, it's interesting to think, and they mentioned this in the first episode, I believe, that women used their bodies and their sex in a ways to their advantage, because men are stronger, and so women have that's to their advantage.
Right.
And you would think that she, to recruit Gregory, maybe used her sexuality or tried to lure him that way, but I don't think that's what happened, because at the end of the episode we find out that Elizabeth explains how their relationship happened so organically.
She fell in love with him.
That is not how it happened with Philip, and she wished that it did. But it is now.
Right.
And you can see all over Philip's face that, she goes, I wish that happened for us that way, but it didn't. Right? And he goes, yeah, no. Like, he was agreeing with her, but you could see his cover was really like.
But do you think Philip is, we know where Philip was, he was in love, he's to a certain point, but I think that speech that Gregory gave him maybe got to him. Like, if you love her, then leave her alone. If you don't love her, leave her alone. In other words, it felt like that he reached a point maybe that, like, maybe I'm not the best thing for her, maybe this is not working. Because towards the end there, she was like, well, what I got from that is, I'm falling in love with you. This is happening now. And I felt like he was kind of going, a little late now. That's how I read it. What the hell do I know?
Maybe that's a good. I read that as just him kind of taking that in and thinking
like
about
a cliffhanger a little bit.
a cliffhanger.
Right.
But I definitely think that Philip has been waiting to hear that for a really long time.
Yeah, I agree.
I was actually happy for her to say it, because she has seemed a little sociopathic this entire time.
Sure.
And to see that she's doing things for the right reasons instead of for the job and for her country.
Some emotion for
Right.
why
You have
she was
to-
such a robot.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
in the first episodes.
Right.
The audience needs to relate, and the exposition, which normally is like very hard to write into a show, because you're like, oh, okay, here we go. Here's the soap opera. Explain. It was my twin sister's ex-boyfriend's blah, 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 whatever. But it felt very organic when she was saying, I was only 17 when I was in the KGB, and 22 when she moved to America, and I was in a strange place with a strange man in a strange house.
Totally believable. Makes
Totally
complete
believable.
sense.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then she goes, and then I meet this guy, and he's so passionate about everything and me.
Right.
And I think maybe with that too, I feel like Philip probably was passionate about her, but she was just so not given the vibe that he had to,
But I mean, they were there also knowing that they didn't pick each other; they
Exactly.
were put together. So, like, for her to pick, Gregory, it was more of a we were drawn to each other than we were like placed together and given like a paycheck to do this.
Well, we saw hints of that in the early, I think it's the first or second episode. We saw the flashback where they
Yes.
first got together.
hotel room.
Oh,
It's
that's
kind of
so
like,
awkward.
we're going to have to do this sooner or later. And she's like, get off
so
me, fool.
awkward.
So
awkward. And
It was an
I'm
arranged
very awkward.
marriage.
Yeah.
Totally, and we could see. I mean, that is really. I could imagine that being really scary. But so now we're all finding this out about Gregory and Elizabeth. And meanwhile, we've got Robert, the guy that fled that car scene in the first episode,
Right.
was stabbed, and now we find out he's dead. He's turned up, and he has a wife and a kid.
Well, Robert posed all kinds of interesting questions and problems because his death, we thought we were done with Robert, but first of all, Nina, who is now the new FBI informant, well, I think it's actually sneaky hot, by the way.
She's pretty, yeah.
Yeah, but Nina has told the FBI who Robert was, so they're actually on to Robert, so they're watching him as well. We get this message from the newspaper, which is, again, in the 80s, they apparently communicated via newspaper.
You were like, hey, Facebook messaged me. It was like, put an ad in the classifieds. Call me.
So they go to investigate to find out that he has a wife, a kid, and then the FBI are onto him. So you have all these people sort of converging in Philadelphia, which is really, really interesting over Robert, this dead guy. And also we have, which we'll get to in a second, we have, Grandma, Margot Martindale, who also converged. Granny's going to converge in Philadelphia too over Robert. So
well, right when we discover that there's been an ad placed, we've got Philip reading it in the newspaper, realizing it, and in his blind spot, we've got Granny. I mean, this is just another example. He's out to breakfast with his daughter. Like, these people do not stop.
Don't miss
every second. They sleep with like one eye open. They're like,
wait. Meanwhile, okay, do they read the entire newspaper from start to finish and catch the little notice?
Probably.
Yeah.
Or do they specifically read the newspaper for the notices? Because they don't care about our news.
No, they're reading it. They're reading it for probably any. I mean, maybe just to be up on current events and act like they're being very American.
Yeah.
And then also for clues and things like that.
Check the classified, because that's where all the messages are.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like us checking our email every day.
Yeah, it's like checking your email. You throw the junk out, and then you're like, oh, look, I have to meet another Russian spy today, like everyone else does, right?
Right.
It's like totally normal. So Robert is dead for a while, and they can't figure out why. They're like, how did this get posted in the classifieds that he's been dead for like 2 weeks? So once we meet his wife, Joyce, we find out, and their son, Oscar, we find out that he told her, he gave her specific instructions, and Jen and I especially were like, this girl she's a woman, and she didn't ask any questions. Like, we'd all be like, and then what'd you do? And what color of pants were you wearing? And like, come on. So we find out that Elizabeth and Philip need to get to this woman because they're like, what does she know?
Right.
Exactly. We got to stop her now from talking if she knows anything.
Exactly.
We find out, we think, and she could be lying, she doesn't know anything because of just the way she's acting. And here he gave me this note to give to you, which is eventually decoded.
Right.
And he told me if he doesn't come back in 2 weeks, I need to place this ad in the paper, and that was like the warning to everybody that he didn't make it.
How does nobody, these KGB spies are very, very smart, obviously.
Yeah.
And, they don't trust each other, and they have all these things going on, and everyone's a little bit afraid of the KGB themselves in the center, but they're for their cause, so they're like confident and all that and fearless. But to know that there's so many lies and like so many layers to everything and people being replaced by other people, how do they not think that something bad was going to happen to that woman? That's obviously why he hid her for so long.
Yeah.
Oh, the wife.
Yeah. Why would he then? I mean, unless he wanted her killed so that she wouldn't have to then go through this life. Maybe.
No, I think that he fell in love, and he knew that he could never let her know about what he did. So he kept her
never let them know about her.
Never let them know about her. And
But why have her post this ad and get involved now?
No, that was only because if he died, then her and her son
she's
have
screwed.
nothing. So she's basically like.
And I think she was hoping. I think you're right on that, Joe. I think she was hoping that, or he. Robert, sorry, there's too many names floating in my head, was hoping that that Philip and Elizabeth would help her.
Right.
And we still don't know this for sure, but we're thinking that they did really try and help her and that they had no idea she was going to be killed by Granny.
I think we give every indication in the show that they wanted to help. I mean, both. I mean, maybe Carrie Russell had a little wavering with Gregory, like, I haven't made a decision yet, but we got the whole time that they wanted to help the whole time.
We can safely make the assumption that we think that when they passed her off to Granny,
they fully thought
she was going to Cuba and she was going to be okay.
Drink some Cuba Libres and whatever else they drink out there.
Yeah.
That makes sense because during the Cold War they were in cahoots. So
yeah,
they sure were.
And I just want to get back to the storytelling here is just still remarkable because it was so. We had to pause the TV at one point because there's so much going on. But I realized that then I was completely confused. Had to go back and recount it, but I realized that they explained everything.
Oh.
If I would have just been patient, they would explain it all to me.
Totally. agree.
They
That's
did a
when you
fantastic job of like sort of laying all this stuff out for us and then sort of bringing it all in. I'm
It
like,
unfolds.
yeah,
it
really
totally
well done.
unfolds. You have to be patient, and that's a prime example. That moment where
Right.
they hand Joyce off to Granny, and you're going, wait. Oh, what's gonna? And then at the end of the episode, they tell you exactly what
Yep,
happened to her.
Exactly.
Done.
Exactly.
Russian KGB style. Word up.
Yeah.
That's how they roll.
Made it look like a drug overdose, and the baby was sent back to Russia to probably
KGB
become.
does not play. They know
No.
exactly what they're doing.
That baby's probably going to become the next round of KGB spies.
That
Right.
baby is gonna, or a very, very talented gymnast.
Yeah,
2 options.
that's it.
And
all you
either
get.
or is very badass.
Yep.
Yes.
True.
That's just what I'm saying. So yeah, so the whole Robert thing was, very interesting to see what, because this is another thing. They always, that in itself is an explanation, because that Robert got thrown out of that car and we never really heard back from him
I
again.
dismissed him. I was like, eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, nah. And then, very much like Homeland. Homeland does this a lot.
Right, he's back.
He's back, and there is an explanation. Everything is tied up, in
Yeah.
this, which I love. I just dropped my pen. I'm so
Well,
excited.
it's all right.
But yeah, I like that they kind of explain that, and it's clearly this. I think they might be tying this specific Robert thing up, but off of that comes a lot of other cool things.
Well, Robert, as a plot device, Robert was definitely used to be able to include Nina, who then
Yes.
didn't tell the FBI. And Robert's the main lead that got the FBI on the trail. So
Yeah.
with no Robert, the FBI is not in Philadelphia. The FBI is not
Right.
around. So it's definitely a good sort of plot device to get both sides working on this at the same time. And it's great to see. It's great to see like you're kind of rooting for the FBI, but you're also rooting for Philip and
Elizabeth, 'cause you
but-
like them.
right? But I think this is the way that stories will be told now in the future, like now in 2013. Is that
Right.
it's really not necessarily about I'm going to root for this main character and these guys are good and these guys are bad. I think it's sort of like I'm going to tell a story.
Yes.
And in this story, there's these people and there's these people and there's these people.
Like life.
Exactly. And I'm going to let it all play out, and you can just watch it as much as you figure out what you're going to see.
And I think that
Fucking
is
smack in the side.
very.
Like, and then.
And then we're very
Like I
animated on this
said.
show.
We are.
I think that much like reality TV, which is so popular, you're a fly on the wall and you're watching things unfold in like a crazy way, and maybe it's taking a hint off of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is very realistic. It's not like a soap opera. It
Yeah.
doesn't take 800 days to like have one conversation.
Right.
Like, this is the way it really is. And there's tons of different storylines. Like life, there's tons of different layers
Yep.
of people, and everyone's crossing paths, and they intersect or they don't. And I think it's very realistic and really makes it really intriguing. Like,
Right.
you don't want to stop. And speaking of the FBI, who we're talking about, we're rooting for them, sometimes we're not.
Right.
The FBI and Granny, the actress's name is
Margot Martindale. She is
the new Gabriel.
Yeah, one of my favorites. She's just fresh off of her wonderful performance as Mags in Justified season 2, where she killed it and won an Emmy and was wonderful. When she showed up, you knew ish was going down because
Yeah.
she's a great actress. You know she's gonna have some weighty role. So when I saw her in the diner, I was like, "What's Margot doing in the diner? Something's not right."
Something's up with that lady
Yeah.
for sure from the diner. And then also, I think it's interesting that they picked this older, smaller woman to play the role of we're assuming Gabriel was like the head of this operation.
Well, Gabriel ran all the agents.
Yeah.
So she's the one on the ground who's running all the agents, who's reporting directly back to General Zukov or whatever his name is.
Exactly.
So,
It's so crazy to see. I mean, obviously, spies come in all forms.
yeah.
So to see that it's this older woman who
Yeah.
can clearly kill without a whim.
Yeah.
Also you don't expect that from a person you'd call Granny. You expect a nice, charming little woman.
And I think that it's great that we know that she is like super badass, because they
Yeah.
wouldn't give that role to
No.
a woman
Yeah.
a person in that package.
Right.
Like, and right away when Philip kind of confronted her in the alleyway and was like,
Stay away from my kids.
yeah,
and you should
don't
do this.
don't do this, don't do that. And she kind of like said, "Don't ever touch me like that again."
Yeah.
And then she started to lay down the law, and she did
Sure.
this little acting thing that I caught that was very small. She said something to him, and then she went like this and like brushed her eyebrow and went back to it. Like, I'm doing my everyday stuff. I just brushed my eyebrow. Like,
Yeah.
kind of dismissive, but like not overt. Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
She's very good.
That
She also,
that scene was great. But can we please talk about the scene with, just while we're talking about acting?
Yeah.
With Philip and Elizabeth,
Elizabeth
in
in the car, in the
alleyway.
That was
alley.
amazing.
Oh my god.
yeah, it's one of the best scenes we've seen so
That was
far.
great dialogue
with
and
them.
great acting.
Yeah.
I love that Philip was not really on his lines. Like, you could tell he was stopping himself. I mean, come on, David Mamet did not write these words. Okay, so they're not going That was just him being in the moment and being emotional, and it was sounded so real, like a real argument.
Right, because people don't always finish their sentences or complete thoughts.
No, and he was so you could tell how enraged and emotional he was, because that's his Achilles heel. With Carrie Russell's character, it's her kids. Now we're finding out it's Gregory.
Yeah.
But with him, it's always been her. She's always been, I mean, in a second, he killed that Timoshev guy because he didn't even know, but he did something to her, and he was like, that's it, broke his neck.
Yeah, 1 second he's talking about defecting, the next second he's like, oh,
he's like,
did
for
what to
you,
It's over.
for you.
Well, I think part of it's also that they are lonely, and this is actually their family. This is like their
Good
own
point.
cell.
True.
And it's interesting to hear him say, like, you lied to me, and, you know, their life is lying. That's all they do. And so,
but not to each other. I mean,
but they're not real. They're not a real marriage. They're not a real couple.
But they're a team.
They are a team for sure. But they still have, you know, their private lives. It's like, you know, if you're cops, you go home to your wives and your other people.
You're very true, Jen. But I don't think these people are allowed to have private lives.
No.
They may not be, but
like that thing with Gregory, not allowed.
Yeah, no,
like if someone found out about that, just like with Robert and Joyce, that's not allowed. Like you have kids and you love this person, you don't even speak with a Russian accent ever, even in the privacy of each other. Like that does not happen.
I think that though, that scene also played into their fears, like showing like, I am really alone.
Yes.
Like, you are my partner, but I'm actually alone. And he's even considered defecting and for her and all of these things. And I feel like it shows a little bit of their confusion in their own lives and what they're doing, and maybe questioning, what am I doing this for anymore?
That scene for me, I mean, I completely felt him from a male perspective, from all that. Like, it was a battle between him sort of trying to reconcile doing the job and being in love.
And that's the male perspective that you're talking. What's the male perspective?
The male perspective is actually, you know, being in that situation, the argument with someone, you know, where you're like, well, I'm trying to make this work and I love you, but well, fine, do what you want. You know, it's that
and
whole
probably
thing, you know?
from a male perspective too, of feeling like this other dude just walked in here and kind of tried to like alpha male me. Well, like, what's that?
The real male perspective is like, I'm really feeling a lot here, but I can't let you know what I'm feeling, so I'm going to make it about the job.
Why do you do that, boys?
What he wants to say is, I'm in love with you, and I'm in love with you. I don't want you talking to him. Why did you do that to me? But what he ends up saying is, why did you lie to me? This is the job. In fact, do what you want to do. I don't care. I'm a dude. I'm out. Peace.
Gets in the car and storms off, and then cries himself to sleep in the privacy of his own.
Right. That's how we don't do it.
Well, you know, hey, we can learn something from.
We're a lot stronger than that, us men.
Yeah.
No, but I love that scene for that reason. Like the whole but in that moment, he's trying to reconcile the fact that, like, well, this is my job and I'm the spy, and well, this is wrong as a spy. You're my partner and you shouldn't lie to me. But also, like, you shouldn't lie to me because I love you. I thought you loved me, and why'd you tell this? You didn't even tell me that. You told him, but not me. But,
exactly.
You know, that was really well played.
Totally, and I think that the layer as an acting choice, it's there. He is, you know, consciously covering with that male perspective of like, I'm not going to show you my emotions, but you can see it in his eyes as an actor. Like, I pay attention to that kind of stuff. This guy is hurting. At the end of the episode, you see the same thing in his eyes when she's saying, you know, that it happened so organically with Gregory, but it didn't happen for us like that, right? And you just see his heart breaking. Like, it did for me, maybe not for you, but it did for me. And those are the layers that make it so interesting.
Sorry if I know Black Panther.
Sorry, well, hey, I mean,
sorry if I'm just a Russian spy.
I could see why she might have liked that Gregory guy, but I liked the way he walked. I was like, I like the way that guy's walking.
I hope Carrie Russell really does like the Black.
Swaggy. Hey.
She definitely likes confident men.
That's, well.
Yeah, because we saw that was kind of a problem with Philip. She was like, she told that guy that she was sleeping with to get information from that she really liked. Didn't she say she liked how manly he was or something?
No, she said you need to be stronger next time or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
And so we kind of concluded that maybe.
He's listened to the tapes like, damn.
I mean, she's already more manly than most men, so she probably needs somebody that much stronger.
Totally. Yeah. But then we start to see that side of Philip. It's kind of hot when he's like, can you get out of my blind spot? And then those guys come up on him and just like bam, bam, bam. And then it ends, that scene ends with the briefcase opening up and all the money. Another great scene.
Again, on the action side, that's really good action, really good. And they're really doing a job of the spy stuff as well.
And like before that, how still he was too. He's like, man, could you get out of my blind spot?
It's like, I warned you twice.
Like, bam, bam, and then he goes.
That when he's like, I warned them.
I warned
twice.
I warned them twice.
Wait, but so what was in that box? We still don't know what was in the briefcase that then he gave to Granny Lady.
You know, I wonder about that in general. We talked about, like, you know, what is the in game here and what's in game for these spies in general. But I wonder about that again. Back to the storytelling is, I don't think it's really necessary for us as the audience to know exactly the specifics of what they're doing. We just know that they're KBG guys doing bad stuff, take down America. It's a lot of exchanges, envelopes, a lot of
information,
briefcases,
right. And it will be explained, like you said.
It'll be explained.
But even if it's not explained, I think we got the fact that they're doing stuff.
What it was, I think, was probably some sort of like recording device, because again, they didn't have internet back in the day. Like, this is how they passed information on. Speaking of the internet, by the way, we need to do a little iTunes shout out for y'all who go onto iTunes and rate and comment and tell a friend.
Please.
We love, love, love when you guys do that.
We're number one right now because of you guys.
The number one show, dethroning the following.
That's right.
Which is another show that I do, which is great.
And sorry about that.
That's quite all right. Hey.
But we are going to keep it that way because we love to hear what you guys have to say. It keeps the lights on for us over here. We listen to your good and bad comments. Plus, this is a show that I feel like really is a great conversation piece. There's like we said, so many layers, so many different sides. Like, somebody could argue a whole different side to this and have a very valid argument based on facts and things that they do and say. So tell us about that, please.
We'd love to hear what you think about the show. We love 5s, 4s, 5s, subscribe, comment.
Please do.
Please.
We also actually check our YouTube comments all the time and want to give a shout out to Taylor Lee, because Taylor Lee wrote saying that she doesn't think that Elizabeth is being more affectionate towards Philip just for the job, but like what we were thinking, because she finally realized how much he cares about her and is starting to open up to the thought of loving him, which we now saw in this episode.
Right.
Good call, Taylor.
And this was a response to you guys last week talking about the episode where we started to see a little bit more of that.
Good call, Taylor.
See, Taylor was on it. She predicted that. Good prediction,
on the money.
girlfriend.
On the money. So we'd love to hear from you, please.
Talk to us.
Yeah, we definitely love that. And also, speaking of, things that you can do and see and watch, we have an exciting announcement here at AfterBuzz TV. Our CEO, Maria Menounos, and Kevin Undergaro, they have a new fancy, fantastic, funny movie coming out called Serial Buddies.
Yay.
And you can watch Maria in the movie. She's great. But you can also see, like, Kathy Lee Gifford, Christopher Lloyd, to name a few. It's a really, really funny comedy, and I like to describe it as it's like Dexter meets Dumb and Dumber.
Right.
Who doesn't want to see that?
Who doesn't like either of those? So it's super funny. The comedy is like that Dumb and Dumber humor, but the subject matter is sort of Dexter-y about serial killers that become friends, and wackiness ensues, correct?
Right, exactly. Kathleen Gifford, I will say, is hilarious. You'll see her like you've never seen her before. And also look out for one of my heroes. Speaking of the 80s, one of my heroes, Henry Winkler. The Fonz himself is his voice. He's in the movie as well.
What a cast.
Tons of fun cameos.
It's great, yeah. And, and Maria and the gang, so
and
check it out.
When can we see this?
And we can see this. It opens March 8th in cities like, if you're in LA, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, word up to the Bay Area, people on Van Ness and the theater in Van Ness, go see it.
I'll be there this weekend.
And you can, so you can visit www.serialbuddies.com and make sure to follow at Maria Menounos and at Serial Buddies on Twitter, so you can get all the news and gossip and latest info. March 8th, go see it. It's going to be
at Serial _ Buddies, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, at Serial _ Buddies.
Right.
I need to give that correct information. But yes, so please go see it. For all you AfterBuzz fans, you can see now AfterBuzz movies. How we're all involved in lots of different things.
Yes. And I will say, from my other show, Justified, my co-host Steve Bottomley does some music in there. He has 2 songs. My other co-host did some costumes on there.
Wow.
My other co-host John is in the movie. Is really great. So it's definitely a family affair here.
It's
so check
definitely. So it's going to be great and funny. Make sure you see it March 8th. All right. So I don't know. I feel like we kind of covered everything from this episode. No, is there anything we're leaving out? I feel like this was a really, really action-packed episode, though.
It was. We saw the lengths to which these people will go to cover up themselves.
And my favorite part, you're absolutely right, my favorite part is definitely seeing the softer side of Elizabeth.
Right.
for sure.
Me too.
She's definitely starting to soften up, and we're actually seeing more of the FBI. We're seeing how we're playing both sides, the KGB versus the FBI.
Yep.
We're also starting to see, as we saw on the previews, some real life events start to take place.
Ronald Reagan shooting.
Reagan was an assassination attempt by Ronald Reagan. Looks like it's going to play a huge role next week, so that'll be something to look for.
I like that, like Homeland, they use real events that
Right.
happened and then tie it into their story. It makes it relevant. It makes you be able to relate to it. And I'm excited to see where this Elizabeth and Philip thing starts going. She keeps touching his hand. I say,
Yeah, that's her thing. Her
Hey,
token thing is this.
you know what? Every time, if
effective.
you're of age, take a shot of vodka. Every time
Yes.
Elizabeth and Philip touch hands. That's our new drinking game for you people that are above the age of 21. Please.
I think I may wear fur next episode.
And I'm going to too.
Right.
I'm going to wear fur
Fake
too.
fur. Fake fur.
Faux fur. Vodka also because
I'm
of
bringing
the
my
Russian.
vodka to our screening, and every time that I touch hands, I will drink the vodka.
Okay,
so we'll
good.
see how I feel.
We're of
Great.
age, so we
next
can do that.
week.
Love it.
All right, kids. Should we get into some news and gossip?
AfterBuzz TV News.
So we only have a few things because really Matthew Reese and Kerry Russell are not in like the press at all, except for their like really awesome interviews that they do, which are so not dramatic in any way. So there's not a lot of gossip, you know. They're just nice actor
They are.
people.
Right.
But there's some ratings news. FX has like several great shows on, you know, the Americans, Justified, American Horror Story, Sons of Anarchy.
Anger management, which we also do at AfterBuzz TV here.
Right, exactly. So I think
Justified.
we do all of those shows here. But this show particularly started with really high ratings. It sort of dropped off last episode in terms of live viewership, but the DVR ratings are like ×3.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're higher than any of the other shows, and it's doing really well there. And I can see why. I mean, I want to watch it with people when everybody's available to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
know?
waiting.
Well, that's one of the things we've been talking about too. Like, you know, finally the technology has caught up for, you know, these to get accurate ratings. I mean, these +3 ratings and the +7 ratings are really helping. Sort of like, you know, before, because, you know, not everyone nowadays watches things on the night. You watch
right.
them,
I don't wanna watch
You
it then.
DVR them. So these +3 ratings, live +3 and live +7. I mean, you're getting these long tail ratings, and these shows are getting, you know, they're bigger and bigger and bigger. So
Yeah.
it's great.
Good
It's
to
great.
know. Good to
Yeah.
know they're up on it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so speaking of Kerry Russell doing an interview, she was actually on Jimmy Fallon, and she was talking about how she was on the Mickey Mouse Club.
Yes, I remember that.
Remember
Yeah,
that?
I remember that too.
Loved it.
I had forgotten, and then I remembered. I was like, oh,
Justin Timberlake,
exactly.
Yep.
Christina Aguilera,
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling,
Yep.
Brittany.
Brittany.
It's
Brittany.
Brittany, bitch.
It's Brittany.
Fergie.
Was JC too?
JC and JC.
JC Chazelle.
And Fergie.
There was a
And
lot
Ferg.
of them.
Fergie.
Wow.
Wait, Fergie was on
Fergie,
Kids
Ferg.
Incorporated.
No,
though.
Kids Incorporated. You're right.
I'm not.
With Jennifer Love.
Oh yeah,
Hewitt?
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah,
great
JLH.
shows. I kind of missed them.
So she had a little interview with
She
Jimmy.
did, and she was talking about how, you know, she's on The Americans. She's got a lot going on right now.
The movies.
She's in that movie. Everyone's talking about her doing the next Star Trek or
Yes.
Star Wars.
Star Trek, I believe.
Maybe Star
Wars.
Wars
Are you
because
sure?
her. Well, is she in this Star
Being-
Trek?
The one with J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. Well, J.J. was doing both. That's the trick.
Oh.
Well,
What a
one's already
monopoly.
shot, and then one's coming out. I just know because I just did a whole thing in Lucasfilm for Star Wars.
I'm gonna
for Grant
bing it
Rand.
right now.
I think they're talking about her doing possibly cooking up with JJ for the new Star Wars.
And being Princess Leia or something? I don't know.
Yeah, Star Wars.
Awesome. Well, either way, we'll find out from Lauren in a second. She was talking about how she was doing stunts and she has to really do these stunts to make it look real.
No.
So there was one episode where she had to, you know, slam the guy's head through a wall, and she was like, it was horrifying. You know, I had to do this, and it was a little bit crazy. And Jimmy was like, well, you know, so what did you do? Did you do it? What'd you do? And she goes, I fucking did it.
She did not.
Yeah. Sorry, audience.
She's quoting.
I'm just quoting what she
Right.
said.
She did.
Our little Kerry Russell, this is the only drama going on in her life right now. She used the F word.
I love that she
Good for
dropped the
her.
F-bomb because we're so used to seeing Kerry Russell be like the Felicity characters, a little meek, quiet.
Yep.
And this, we get to see her, in The Americans, we get to see her be badass. And then
Yeah.
now I think it's bringing out the badass side in her, huh? And yes, it is
I
Star
love
Wars.
it.
And it's
So
ironic,
hot.
Thank
too.
you, Bing.
Thank
It
you,
is
Bing.
Star Wars.
Bing.
Yeah, great. Awesome. She's really like, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen her do stuff. Even movies, they were very indie, small stuff. And now
Yeah.
we're really getting to see this TV, film. Go Kerry Russell. I love me some Felicity.
Me too.
That's right.
We're rooting for her for sure.
We
Not
love.
as a spy, but as
Well, just, you know,
an
her in
actor.
general.
Who's rooting for?
Kerry Russell.
Kerry
Versatile.
Russell.
All right, should we get into predictions? Are we ready? We're ready.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm so excited. I totally think that Elizabeth is going to start to realize that she has feelings for Philip, even though I feel like she's so like on the like KGB robot path, like she's not going to let that happen. But I think she's going to start to let it happen. And I have two ways this prediction goes. She's either tricking him to keep him from defecting, or she's really going to feel that way. And if she really does start to feel that way, there's going to be a real big problem with Gregory. He's going to get like killed, or something's going to happen because he's going to have to go. He's getting too emotionally involved, and he's going to start ruining things.
Yeah, he's not going to just walk away.
Yeah, something bad's going to happen there.
He's in love with her. He told her.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think to that effect, you know, that it is going to progress in some way, the Elizabeth-Philip thing. I think every episode we're going to see a lot more of them questioning what they're doing.
Yeah.
And whether they should be in this or not.
You mean like they're not going to just lay down and take orders? They're going to be like, hold on, let's talk about this. Yeah.
I think that the defecting thing is going to obviously keep coming up because I'm sure it did at that time. I mean, as a spy, I'm sure that comes up. You are human. You're born with feelings.
Life happens, yeah.
Right. Especially if they start to really love each other. And they do have these kids that they already love. So
that's
like Philip thought about defecting for the family, you know, and sort of departing from this whole lifestyle. She, I think, is going to start thinking that way too, and it's going to keep coming up.
True.
I got two slight predictions. The first one is I think that Kerry Russell Elizabeth will start to fall for Philip, but I think the tables will switch. I think Philip will become more distant as she becomes closer. We open with, you know, her being distant, him being closer. I think they're going to start to switch.
The ebb and flow, right?
So like we'll start. I think that'll be ongoing throughout the season. And I also think that Margot Martindale, Grandma, she's going to do some double crossing. I think that she's not to be not to be trusted, but I think that like
she fights dirty.
Yeah,
she's like Helen. She's going to be like like Judi Dench. I mean,
right,
like
she's
going to be
M
like
and Bond. Yeah, we already saw that she's, you know, with a smile, like, yeah, we'll take you to Cuba. And then that was it.
That she's so
and
cold.
Like I said, I don't think they knew. So that's kind of an indication, kind of where we're going with her.
Yes. They're not going to be able to trust her. They're not going to trust what's going on around them and their involvement in this. That's why I think they're going to want to defect.
You can't trust anybody in this show.
No.
Right.
That's why we need to keep watching and tuning in, because it is cray-cray. Okay? Thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in and watching and listening here at AfterBuzz TV. And we will see you next week for another episode of The Americans. Getting real good, guys.
Yep.
I am Lauren Leonelli. You can find me at Lauren Leonelli on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and my website. Don't make fun, Jen the Jew.
I'm not.
Jen the Jew.
Oh, right. I guess that's a good segue. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jen the Jew, and at my website, JeniferGolden.com. That's one N, guys. Jenifer with one N.
And you can find me here at AfterBuzz on the following After Show on Mondays, the Justified After Show on Tuesdays, and at Grantland.com, ESPN's Grantland.com. I have a 7-part documentary series on Lucasfilm and Star Wars and ILM that comes out tomorrow.
Hey.
So go to Grantland.com, check that out. And on Twitter at Joe K. Braswell, and I on Extra too.
Yeah.
We're everywhere.
All right.
And we're here later for Nashville.
Yeah, so tune in later for Nashville. See you guys next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.